Council meeting. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their elders past and present. I would like to advise everyone that the audio and video of this meeting is being live streamed to YouTube. I request everyone to please turn off your mobile phones. I remind you that audio recording of the meeting proceedings and photography within the chamber is prohibited unless prior approval has been granted, and councillors and city officers are reminded to disclose any declarations of financial interests and interests affecting impartiality, and are requested to activate their microphones when addressing the meeting. Now, councillors, please be advised that live voting is unavailable this evening due to technical difficulties, so we'll be doing voting by way of a show of hands this evening. That brings us to item 1, which is the declaration of opening. I declare this meeting open at 1 minute past 6 p.m. Item 2 is a disclaimer. Members of the public are cautioned against taking any action as a result of a council decision until such time as they've seen a copy of the minutes or been advised in writing by the council's administration with regard to any particular decision. Item 3 is announcements from the presiding member, that's me. Got the mayoral report in accordance with Council Resolution 0226 of 032, a table of my formal engagements, meetings and events since the last council meeting is available in the ordinary council meeting agenda. Item 4 is attendance. Item 4.1 is apologies, that's nil for this evening. Item 4.2 is approved leaves of absence, and that's also nil for this evening. Item 5 is declarations of interest, and as once again, there's quite a few of them, so bear with me. Mayor Greg Milner, that's me. I've declared a financial and proximity interest in item 10.3.1 as some of the proposed listings either include or are adjacent to or are across the road from properties that are owned or indirectly owned by persons who contributed to my mayoral re-election campaign in 2023. Councillor Stephen Russell has declared a financial proximity and impartiality interest in item 10.3.1 as my property is on the Heritage Survey. Adjacent properties to my property are on the Heritage Survey. I know of persons whose properties are on the Heritage Survey. Councillor Gavin Denton has declared a proximity interest in item 10.3.1 as I have ownership of an apartment of 144 Mill Point Road, South Perth, that abuts number 2 Parker Street, South Perth, which is on the local Heritage Survey. Councillor Kathy Lees has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.1 as prior to my election as a ratepayer, I requested that 49 Forest Street, South Perth, be considered for inclusion on the local Heritage Survey. I also have friends who are members of the Royal Perth Golf Club, which is proposed for inclusion. On this basis, I'm declaring an impartiality interest, but confirm that I will consider the matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillor Bronwyn David has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.1 as prior to joining council, I made submissions and deputations on the Heritage Survey. In addition, my sons attended Wesley College and I served for 6 years on the Wesley College Parents and Friends Association, and Wesley College is a property considered for inclusion on the Heritage Survey. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. Nevertheless, I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillor Andre Brenda-Abrandis has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.1 on the basis that I know someone who is not a closely associated person to me and their property is on the local Heritage Survey for final adoption. This impartiality interest will not impair my decision making, which will be based on merit. Mayor Greg Milner, me again, I've declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.2 as I know a number of the members of the Royal Perth Golf Club and I became a clubhouse member in June of 2026. Councillor Kathy Lees has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.2 as this item deals with rezoning of land owned by the Royal Perth Golf Club and I have friends who are members of this club. On this basis, I am declaring an impartiality interest, but confirm that I will consider the matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillor Kathy Lees has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.3, as this item provides a review of the city's tree retention policy. I declare an impartiality interest due to my association with the South Perth and WA tree canopy advocates. I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillor Bronwyn David has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.3, as I am a co-founder of the South Perth Tree Canopy Advocates, which advocated for the adoption of the LPP. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. Nevertheless, I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Mayor Greg Milner, me again. I've declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.4 as one of the neighbouring residents is a friend. Councillor Kathy Lees has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.4 as this item deals with a development application proposing tree damaging activity. I declare an impartiality interest due to my association with the South Perth and WA Tree Canopy Advocates. I will consider the matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillor Bronwyn David has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.4 as the application under review includes reference to trees on the relevant site. I'm a co-founder of the South Perth Tree Canopy Advocates. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. Nevertheless, I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillor Kathy Lees has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.5 as this item deals with a development application proposing tree damaging activity. I declare an impartiality interest due to my association with the South Perth and WA Tree Canopy Advocates. I will consider the matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Councillor Bronwyn David has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.3.5 as the item includes reference to trees on the relevant site. I am a co-founder of the South Perth Tree Canopy Advocates. As a consequence, there may be a perception that my impartiality on the matter may be affected. Nevertheless, I declare that I will consider this matter on its merits and vote accordingly. Mayor Greg Milner, me again. I've declared an impartiality interest in item 15.1.1, 15.1.3, 15.1.4 and 15.1.5 all on the same basis, which is as follows. I know and have had prior interactions with both the complainant and the respondent. I've also declared an impartiality interest in item 15.1.2 as I know and have had prior interactions with both the complainant and the respondent. I am a witness to some of the matters referred to in this item. Councillor Andre Brendera-Brandis has declared an impartiality interest in item 15.1.1, 15.1.2, 15.1.3, 15.1.4 and 15.1.5, all on the same basis that I know the respondent to this Councillor Code of Conduct matter. And Councillor Andre Brendera-Brandis has also declared an impartiality interest in respect of item 15.1.6, which is as follows. I know the respondent and complainant to this Councillor Code of Conduct matter. This impartiality interest will not impair my decision making, which will be based on merit. Councillors, any further declarations to be made this evening? No. Okay. In that case, we move on to item 6, which is public question time. Item 6.1 is responses to previous questions taken on notice. That's nil for this evening. Item 6.2 is public question time itself. But before I open public question time, I would like to remind everyone, as usual, that this section is for questions only and preamble is to be kept to an absolute minimum. And I also ask that you please refrain from using any offensive, objectionable expressions or defamatory language. I know we're all going to play nice. I now open public question time at 6:09 p.m. We've received 2 written submissions prior to tonight's meeting. And I'd like to begin by inviting Mr. Barry Kramer of South Perth to the microphone. Is Mr. Kramer here? No. Okay. In that case, I'll move on to Mr. Graham Kane. Kane or Crane? Crane. Thank you. of Como, if you'd like to come to the microphone, welcome to you, and we look forward to your questions. Yes, there should be a button in front of you, and if it goes red, then that means you've pressed the right one. Or do we do that remotely, governance? Oh, the other mic. Okay, apparently the other one will light up and serve as a microphone. There we go. We just want to jump next door. We'll get the benefit of... Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, my question relates to the drainage works at the South Perth foreshore. I was down there last week, and a significant part of the pedestrian footpath is closed now due to those works, and as a result, there were a lot of pedestrians on the cyclist-only path, little kids, people with prams, etc., and lots of cyclists getting very frustrated and riding quite quickly, and it's creating a hazard. So the request would be, could we make that a shared path and put some signage up until the drainage works are finished, and make it a little bit safer for everyone. The second...
we'll do the questions one at a time. Do you have the questions that you submitted in front of you?
Yeah.
Oh, good, okay.
I mean, I can just read it out, but...
Yeah, if you could, please. So we'll start with question 1, then I'll get a response from the administration for you.
I'll read it out for you. Right, with a portion of the South Perth foreshore pedestrian path currently closed for drainage works, will the council instruct the city to temporarily designate the cycle-only path from Coode Street to the Esplanade as a shared path and install signage asking cyclists to slow down for pedestrian safety, as the pedestrians have to use that path now, kids on tricycles, etc. Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Lowe?
An approved traffic management is in place that provides separation between pedestrians and cyclists along the route, and signage has been installed directing pedestrians to a temporary pathway on the grassed area adjacent to the bike path. The temporary pedestrian footpath is covered with track matting to improve accessibility for prams and other users. However, the city will continue to monitor the effectiveness of the traffic management arrangements throughout the works period.
Okay, yeah. So has that been installed since last Tuesday? Okay. There was only the path by the Wesley boat shed. Okay, second part of the question is, I've just lost it. Here we go, if I have to read it out. The water fountain is also no longer accessible due to these works, and also the water fountain that was by the playground has been out of commission while the Wesley boat shed is being built. So there's no water, I'm not reading the question, am I? There's no water available from Esplanade all the way to Hurlingham, which is not great. So would the council instruct the city to consider relocating the water fountain so it remains accessible to path users?
Thank you for the question. Ms. Lowe?
The city does not propose to relocate or install additional drinking fountains during these works. An external drinking fountain is available at the new Changing Places facility at Sir James Mitchell Park in Coodie Street, which is located approximately midway between the two sites that you mentioned. Given the temporary nature of the current works, which are expected to be completed within 6 to 7 weeks, the provision of additional drinking water facilities was not considered necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Lowe. Ben, your final question, Mr. Crane?
So finally, I guess when major paths or amenities are being closed, does the city conduct a risk assessment and assess the impact on public safety? And if not, could you start doing that? Because it was a very dangerous situation, and also I've seen complaints about cyclists getting angry with pedestrians, which is not ideal.
Thank you for the question. Ms. Lowe?
For projects that involve the temporary closure of paths or amenities, the risk assessment and mitigation measures are undertaken as part of the traffic management plans. And city officers regularly inspect the site to monitor compliance with the traffic management plans and ensure the traffic management arrangements remain appropriate.
So the temporary path was part of the plan, it just didn't get done?
Should I respond?
Am I allowed to ask supplementals?
Technically it is bending the rules, but I'll give Ms. Lope an opportunity if she'd like to answer that, or whether she might take it on notice.
I can take that on notice. I was there this afternoon. I can confirm that it was there this afternoon, but I can't confirm that it was there yesterday. So I take
Thank
this
you.
on notice.
Thank you very much for your questions, and thank you, Ms Lope. I don't suppose there's any sign of Mr Barry Kramer? No. Okay. In that case, I'll just check with governance to see if there's any late questions in the tray. No, there's not. Okay. In that case, I close public question time at 6:15 p.m. That brings us to item 7, which is the confirmation of minutes and notes. Item 7.1 is minutes. Item 7.1.1 is the ordinary council meeting held on 28 July 2026. And I'm about to look for a mover and a seconder for a motion that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 28 July 2026 be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Someone to second? Councillor De Souza, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? Nope. In that case, I'll declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.1.2 is the special council meeting held on 10 August 2026. So once again, about to look for a mover and a seconder for a motion that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on special council meeting that is, held on 10 August 2026 be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor David, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No. Okay, then I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you all. And item 7.1.3 is the special council meeting held on 14 August 2026. So once again, looking for a mover and a seconder for a motion that the minutes of the special council meeting held on 14 August 2026 be taken as read and confirmed as a true and correct record. Councillor Denton as mover, thank you. Someone to second? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No, then I declare that carried unanimously as well. Thank you all. All right, item 7.2 is notes of briefing. So I'll look for a moment for a mover and a seconder for a motion that council notes that the following councillor briefings and workshops were held. Those are 7.2.1 council agenda briefing dated 18 August 2026 and 7.2.2 concept briefings and workshops. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor David, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Lees, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? No, then I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you all. Item 8 is presentations. Item 8.1 is petitions. That's nil for this evening. Item 8.2 is gifts or awards presented to council. That's nil for this evening. Item 8.3 is deputations. And deputations were heard at the council agenda briefing held on 18 August 2026. That brings us to item 9, which is the method of dealing with agenda business. And I wish to advise that the following agenda items were not presented to council at the council agenda briefing held on the 18th of August 2026. Those are item 15.1.1, Councillor Code of Conduct, matter 1. Item 15.1.2, Councillor Code of Conduct, matter 2. Councillor 15.1.3, Councillor Code of Conduct, matter 3. Item 15.1.4, Councillor Code of Conduct, matter 4. Item 15.1.5, Councillor Code of Conduct, matter 5. And item 15.1.6, Councillor Code of Conduct, matter 6. I'll now seek confirmation from the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Ms Anita Amprimo, that all the report items contained in tonight's agenda were discussed at the August Council agenda briefing, with the exception of items 15.1.1 to 15.1.6 inclusive. Ms Amprimo.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I can confirm that they were. However, as there are currently 2 vacancies on council and only 7 elected members are present in chambers this evening, and 3 of those elected members have disclosed a financial proximity interest in item 10.3.1, Local Heritage Survey Final Adoption, requiring them to leave the meeting for this item. That will result in us not retaining a quorum for that item. So the City sought approval from the Department of Local Government for a reduced quorum. As soon as this situation became apparent, today the Department has declined that request. I've therefore made the decision to withdraw item 10.3.1 Local Heritage Survey final adoption from this evening's ordinary council meeting agenda. It will be brought back to council at a future meeting.
Thank you, Ms Amprimo. So just confirming, item 10.3.1, Local Heritage Survey final adoption has been withdrawn from the agenda this evening. So, with the exception of those items to be withdrawn for discussion this evening, reports will be adopted by exception resolution. And by that, I mean that the officer recommendation will be adopted as is without discussion or amendment. The following items have been withdrawn for discussion this evening. Those are item 10.1.1, Draft Public Health Plan 2026 to 2031, final adoption. The reason for that is Councillor Kathy Lees has an amendment. Item 10.3.3, Local Planning Policy, Tree Retention, Effectiveness Report. And the reason for that is Councillor Kathy Lees has an alternative motion and Councillor Stephen Russell has an amendment. Item 10.3.4, Proposed Group Dwellings, Lot 296, number 22 Barker Avenue, Como. The reason for that is Councillor Stephen Russell has an alternative motion. Item 10.3.5, Proposed Group Dwellings, Lot 5, number 46 Thelma Street, Como. The reason is Councillor Bronwyn David has an alternative motion. Item 10.4.1, City of South Perth Communications Agreement. The reason for that is Councillor Kathy Lees has an amendment. And item 10.4.5, Chief Executive Officer Evaluation Committee. And the reason for that is appointments and an absolute majority are required. Councillors, does anyone wish to withdraw any other items for discussion this evening? No. Okay. In that case, I will shortly call for a mover and a seconder to carry the following items by exception resolution. Those are items 10.1.2, RFT 5, Provision of Security Services. Item 10.3.2, Proposed Scheme Amendment number 3 to Local Planning Scheme number 7, Lot 1, Labashire Road, South Perth, final adoption. Item 10.3.6, Response to Notice of Motion, Review of Parking Management Systems and Technologies. Item 10.4.2, City of South Perth Submissions, Statutory Review, CAT Act 2011. Item 10.4.3, Monthly Financial Statements, June 2026, Interim. Item 10.4.4, Listings of Payments, July 2026. It was July, wasn't it, folks? Yes. All right. So 10.4.3 is actually monthly financial statements, July 2026. I thought that might be the case when I... yep. All right. Can I have a mover for those items by exception resolution, please? Councillor David, thank you. Someone a second. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose any of those items? No? In that case, those items have just been passed by exception resolution in accordance with clause 5.5 of the City of South Perth Standing Orders Local Law 2007, and the officers' recommendations have been accepted by council. We'll now be moving on to the first of those reports to be identified to be withdrawn for discussion this evening, which is item 10.1.1, Draft Public Health Plan 2026 to 2031, final adoption. And Councillor Lees, I believe that you have an amendment lined up for this one. Would you like to begin by moving the amendment as though that's the substantive motion? All right, in that case, folks, do we have hard copies of all the amended and alternative motions? Okay, it's on the screen, thank you. Councillor Lees, would you like to read out, we can all see it on the screen, but maybe read out the parts in red that constitute how your amendment differs from the officer recommendation, and then I'll see about a seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My addition is that the plan be adopted subject to the following addition. 1, in the action plan, insert the following additional action under emergency preparedness with the time frame for the lifespan of the public health plan. So in the table under action, the proposed action is improve preparedness for and resilience to extreme heat events through heat wave planning, response and adaptation measures and community awareness programs. The performance measure that's proposed is heatwave planning, response, adaptation measures and community awareness programs documented and implemented. This is a new action and financial or in-kind resourcing, staff time only, incorporated in City's operational budget.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillors, is there anyone that would like to second Councillor Lees's amendment? Councillor David, thank you. Councillor Lees, the floor is yours for your reasons.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm moving this amendment because I think it strengthens what is already a very good public health plan. And on that note, I would like to thank the staff involved for all of their hard work in preparing the plan. The amendment is quite straightforward. It adds a specific action under emergency preparedness to improve heatwave planning, response measures, adaptation actions and community awareness. Importantly, under the Local Government Act, local governments now have a clear role in planning for and responding to the impacts of climate change. As councils, we are expected to consider climate risks and build resilience within our communities. Extreme heat is increasingly recognised as a significant public health risk, particularly for older residents and people with existing health conditions. If we're talking about preparedness and resilience, I think it makes sense that heat waves are specifically included in the plan. The evidence is clear. WA Health Department projections released in 2024 showed that by the 2050s, Perth could experience a 61.4% increase in heat-related deaths and a 33.8% increase in heat-sensitive hospital admissions. Older people and those with cardiovascular conditions and underlying health conditions are amongst the most vulnerable. So the amendment doesn't change the direction of the plan. It simply ensures that one of the most significant and increasing public health risks facing our community is properly recognised and planned for. Importantly, there's no additional budget, and as the work would be incorporated into existing operational activities and staff resources. I think this is a practical, sensible and evidence-based addition that will strengthen the plan and help protect our community in the future, so I would encourage you all to support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillor David, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yes, just to reiterate what Councillor Lees has said, heat exposure is recognised as a significant driver of ill health and mortality. It's been described as a silent killer as it causes more fatalities than all other natural disasters combined. This week, published in the Lancet Planetary Health publication, was a report to the effect that the impacts of heat waves on people over the age of 60 have been underestimated. US researchers have found that people above this age face serious health risks from heat at much lower temperatures than previously understood. In the city of South Perth, 25.6% of our population is aged 60 or over. In the Greater Perth area, 21% of the metropolitan population is aged 60 or over. So we in the city of South Perth have a higher proportion of our population being elderly, and to protect them, I think it's absolutely necessary that we include provisions regarding heat in the public health plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Now, for those members of the gallery and those who might be watching via YouTube, this is ordinarily the place where I would ask if anyone wishes to speak against it. Under the standing orders, if nobody wants to speak against a particular item, I've got the ability to consider it carried unanimously. So with that in mind, would anyone like to speak against Councillor Lees's amendment? Councillor D'Souza.
Questions, Mr Mayor.
By all means.
So certainly heat waves are obviously not good. The question is, including this in our public health plan, is that actually within the remit of council, or is it more squarely a federal or state issue?
Ms Mullen or Ms Shaw? Ms Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It is something that can be considered by the local government as we have local emergency management arrangements, and we can coordinate responses to any incidences that may arise from that. In terms of the way that the amendment has been drafted, it effectively relies on existing staff resources. So, for example, if there was any campaigns or promotion related to this, we could use our existing marketing and comms team to promote any messaging in that respect.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. Councillor D'Souza, another question?
That answered my second question. That's all. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
All right. Councillors. Oh, Councillor David, you've got your light on. A question because you've spoken, or no? I'm just being hyper attentive. Okay. Would anyone like to speak against Councillor Lees's amendment, councillors? Nope. We have had some degree of debate, even if no one spoke against it. So there's no need for Councillor Lees to wind up. I'm simply going to put Councillor Lees's amendment to the vote. Councillors, all those in favour, please raise your hands. And that was unanimous. Thank you all. Okay. We now move on to the next item to be withdrawn for discussion this evening, which is item 10.3.3, entitled Local Planning Policy 3.2, Tree Retention Effectiveness Report. We have received an alternative motion from Councillor Lees. We've also received an amendment from Councillor Russell. I've been advised that Councillor Lees's alternative motion was received first in time. So, Councillor Lees, if you would like to do so at this junction, you have the opportunity to lead and move your alternative motion if you would like to do so. All right. So I think we've got that up on the screen now. So there's probably no need for you to read that out to the council. I'll just see if you've got someone who would like to second your alternative motion. Councillors, would anyone like to second Councillor Lees's alternative motion? Going, Councillor David. Okay. Councillor Lees, the floor is yours for your reasons, if you would like to give them.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm moving this alternative motion because I think the report demonstrates that the tree retention policy is working and we now have an opportunity to build on its success. Since the policy was adopted, 92 regulated trees have been retained through the development approval process, and that's a positive outcome for our urban canopy, public health and wellbeing, our natural environment and resilience to increasing heat. I think it's worth noting that despite concerns raised when the policy was first considered for adoption, the report shows that the costs and resources required to implement and administer the policy have been relatively modest. These costs are clearly, from my mind, outweighed by the value delivered through the retention of 92 significant trees and the substantial environmental, public health, wellbeing and urban cooling benefits they provide. In my view, the report demonstrates that the policy has delivered a strong return for the community. Since we adopted our policy, the Walga Model Tree Retention Policy has been updated twice. Those updates, together with our own experience administering the policy, provide a valuable opportunity to review what's working and make targeted improvements where needed. This amendment seeks to incorporate those WOLGA updates while also addressing a number of practical issues that have emerged through the city's and council's use of the policy. These include greater clarity around when redesign is genuinely unfeasible, how root damage should be managed, replacement planting requirements, and clearer guidance on preferred and non-preferred tree species. I'm also asking administration to investigate whether incentives or rebates may be feasible to support residents who retain significant trees. This is only an investigation at this stage, not a commitment to establish a program. But mature trees provide significant benefits to the broader community, and I think it's worth exploring whether there are practical ways to support residents who are caring for these important community assets. For me, this recommendation is about continuous improvement. It builds on the policy that is already delivering policy outcomes while providing greater clarity, consistency and certainty for residents, applicants and decision makers, and also looks to support those who are caring for these important assets. So I encourage councillors to support the alternative recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillor David, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yes, just to reiterate what Councillor Lees has stated, that since our local planning policy came into effect, the model on which it is based has been updated twice. I think in order to work effectively across the metropolitan area, we should, to the greatest extent possible, try to be in accord with other local government areas and their tree retention policies, so that there's not too much difference, allowing people applying under the policy to have some confusion. So I commend the amendment to you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Now, Councillor Russell, I'm conscious that you had an amendment for the officer recommendation, but it strikes me that it could probably be bolted onto the alternative motion as a point 3, if you would like to move that motion, or if the mover and seconder of Councillor Lees's alternative motion are happy to adopt your amendment as, say, a new paragraph 3. Well, with Councillor Lees's and Councillor David's consent, we can do that automatically. But it's your amendment, so how would you like to proceed?
I'll just proceed now. I'll just raise it.
All right, so you're moving your alternative motion, sorry, your amendment to Councillor Lees's alternative motion. Are you happy for it just to form a new paragraph 3?
Yes.
All right. Can we get that on the screen, please, Governance? There we go. So the paragraph that's currently appearing as paragraph 2 in red on the screen is intended, if this amendment is successful, that will appear as a new paragraph 3 on Councillor Lees's alternative motion. I hope that makes sense. Would anyone like to second Councillor Russell's amendment? Councillor, I'll go with Councillor Brenda Abrangis, otherwise it's going to get confusing, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. Councillor Russell, the floor is yours for your reasons.
Are we not reading motions anymore?
Oh, I'm happy for you to read the motion. We've got it on the screen, so, but if you'd like to do that, feel free.
Okay, so the primary question is, should significant tree retention be addressed earlier in the planning process before subdivision boundaries are fixed? The question should be answered yes for the following reasons. 1, LPP 3.2 and the R codes have similar planning objectives regarding development applications and designed to support tree retention and re-establishment of the urban tree canopy with the aim of reducing the impact of heat island effect. 2, the effectiveness report identifies that subdivision approvals can create lots that are difficult or impossible to develop without the subsequent removal of regulated trees. This can undermine the objectives of LPP 3.2 and the R codes at a later stage of the planning process. 3, the City has identified that it has limited jurisdiction over subdivision approvals which are determined by the WAPC, yet the consequences of those subdivision layouts are often realised during subsequent development applications assessed under LPP 3.2 and the R codes. 4, early identification and consideration of significant or regulated trees at the subdivision stage may reduce the need for future applications seeking approval for tree damaging activity. 5, better integration between subdivision design and tree retention objectives may assist in avoiding situations where future public envelopes, conflicts and established tree protection requirements. 6, the report notes that current WAPC subdivision conditions generally focus on identifying vegetation worthy of retention rather than requiring subdivision layouts to be designed around significant or regulated trees. 7, consideration of tree retention early in the planning process is consistent with the objectives of LPP 3.2 and the R codes, which seek to promote and facilitate tree preservation at the earliest possible stage in planning and development. 8, improved coordination between local and state planning processes may provide greater certainty for landowners, applicants, councils and the community regarding the future development potential of lots containing significant regulated trees. 9, a review of subdivision practices may help align urban canopy objectives with development with development objectives or outcomes, and reduce future conflicts between housing delivery and tree retention objectives. And 10, engagement with appropriate state government agencies would allow the city to contribute practical implementations experience gained from the first year of administrating LPP 3.2. And if we can remove WALGA from that point 10.
I think we can do that, can't we, Governance? Excellent. All right. Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, look, I think this is appropriate. We do need to consider development applications early on in the piece. Primarily, we do need to consider the impact of our local planning policy 3.2 and significant trees early. We've seen obviously too many significant trees that have actually suffered with regard to development applications previously, so I recommend this amendment and support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenda Abrandis. Councillors, does anyone oppose Councillor Russell's amendment to Councillor Lees's alternative motion? No? Then I'll declare the amendment carried unanimously. We now revert back to Councillor Lees's alternative motion, albeit amended in accordance with Councillor Russell's amendment. Is there anyone who would like to speak against the amended alternative motion? Councillor De Souza.
I've got some questions, Mr Mayor.
Far away.
So I just want to clarify the difference between Councillor Lee's motion and the City Officer report. Councillor Lee's motion at clause 2I asks the City to present to Council for advertising basically a new policy, a new and expanded policy. And the way I read the Officer report was effectively a bit of a stop, pause, stock take, and under potential actions conduct a full review of the current policy. Can I just confirm that that's what the state of play is?
Ms Mullen or Ms Shaw? Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the chair. The Officer recommendation in relation to the LPP 3.2 effectiveness report was just that Council notes the information contained within the report, although potential actions were highlighted within the report. So in terms of the alternative motion, it does not conflict with the Officer recommendation per se, because it was just to note the contents. I would suggest that conducting a full review of LPP 3.2 provisions and the amended motion are fairly closely aligned. It is to prepare and present an amended local planning policy. So I would consider that really the amended motion is in effect aligned with the actions and the intent of the actions identified in the Officer report.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor De Souza.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So it wouldn't be, I guess, putting the cart before the horse for us to have a policy prepared without a more thorough review of the existing policy?
Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the chair. The effectiveness report, in effect, does review the provisions. Well, it reviews the effectiveness of the provisions. So the conclusion that could be drawn is that there is a requirement to prepare a draft LPP. In doing so, officers would actually undertake a review of LPP 3.2 provisions and present that to Council, noting that the intent is that the revised policy is largely consistent with the Walga tree retention policy. In doing so, obviously officers would be looking at the existing provisions to see whether they could be aligned with or reintroduced into the Walga tree retention policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor De Souza.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for the response. And in respect for that same clause, parts A to D, and absorbing those into a new expanded policy, can the City broadly speak to or advise, I guess, the ease at which those provisions can be added and any potential implementation issues which might arise?
Ms Mullen.
Thank you, through the chair. At this stage, I would consider that these elements can be incorporated within the policy. Obviously, officers will undertake a review of A to D in terms of how they could actually be practically applied, and that will be presented back to Council. But I don't foresee any initial issues per se. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Any further questions, Councillor De Souza? Okay. So, Councillor Russell, question or looking to speak?
Question. So is this, I take it this is job done for the city with respect to the resolution that triggered this? There's no recurrent effectiveness reports from now onwards?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you, through the chair. No, in terms of the previous resolution, this was the requirement to provide this particular report in terms of the effectiveness. Once a policy is adopted, it is obviously reviewed periodically, but in terms of this particular policy and the previous motion, that is complete by the report presented to Council.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Russell?
I see there's a note or reference made to the Walga tree retention local planning policy, which is just looks as though it's just been released. Has the city had a view of this and any differences to what we have now?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you, the Chair. The policy is an exemptions policy which was originally recommended by officers. So in that sense, the Walga tree retention model policy is more closely aligned with the original officer recommendation in terms of a policy to adopt. Thank you.
Sorry, can you just explain what an exemption policy is?
Ms Mullen? Or Ms Shaw? Ms Mullen?
Thank you. Thank you, through the chair. I was just looking for the policy. I actually have the draft policy in front of me. So in terms of the draft policy, it's actually stating what tree damaging activity does not require development approval, which is in effect the opposite of the city's current policy. So the wording in the Walga policy is tree damaging activity does not require development approval in any of the following circumstances. Whereas if I can read the city's current policy, the city's current policy is tree damaging activity requires development approval except in the following circumstances. So there's a nuance between the two.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Russell?
Is there some sort of legal strength to have exclusion rather than the way we have it? I mean, I don't understand that at all.
Ms Mullen or Ms Shaw? Ms Shaw?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Clause 61 of the planning regulations provides the ability for exemptions where you have an exemption included either via a local planning policy or embedded in those regulations. It means development approval is not required unless the place is in a heritage protected place. And so, as Ms Mullen pointed out, the current policy is drafted in such a way that it requires development approval where a tree meets the requirements of a regulated tree in the policy, whereas the revised draft Walga template flips it back to an exemptions policy. So if a tree did not meet that criteria, no development approval would need to be applied for.
So let me get this, just trying to understand this. So under the P&D, it's based upon a requirement for a development application is based upon an exemption sort of criteria, and we're just aligning ourselves with that. Is that correct?
Ms Shaw?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Planning and Development Act makes it an offence to not receive development approval where something meets the definition of development. The Act itself does not actually require you to obtain development approval. Rather, it's an offence if you don't obtain development approval. The planning regulations provide the ability for exemptions, and the regulations provide the ability to create a local planning policy that expands on the exemptions contained within those regulations.
Thank you, Ms Shaw. So, councillors, just making sure everyone's sort of on the same page and we're all travelling together. We're back to the alternative motion moved by Councillor Lees as amended by the amendment from Councillor Russell. Councillor Lees and Councillor David have both spoken to the substantive motion at the moment. No one else has spoken either for or against. Is there anyone who would like to speak against the amended alternative motion? Councillor D'Souza.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be speaking against, primarily for process reasons, but partly there are some substantive issues. The first thing I'll say is I read the report, the officer report, slightly differently to others, and I would say that I read it as a way for the city, or rather what the city wrote, is conducting a stock take and a pause about how this policy is being implemented thus far. And as is the case with all the policies we have on our books as a council, it is subject to an annual policy review process. This has attracted a bit more attention, so there might have been a suggestion to have a more rigorous process in addition to the annual process. But I was interested in the potential actions on page 43 of the report, which the first dot point says the city advises to conduct a full review of LPP 3.2 provisions. This is a space of law moving very quickly. Lots of case law yet to be determined and tested. So instead of council bringing this motion forward, which is absolutely Councillor Lee's right, and I think it raises some interesting points, but I would have preferred the city to conduct a full review of our current policy and how any potential ideas, like Councillor Lee suggested, would fit in with that. Further, I would, in addition to what I raised last week, there is going to be an increasing prosecution burden on the city, and whether or not the city wants to continue to escalate that and what that means for staffing and resourcing. All of these questions are questions which we should be asking and which we should be debating, and I don't think we should just be continuing and expanding a policy when we've just recently had this policy adopted. We need to have more time to consider the implications. The report, the city report mentioned as well that because the policy effectively was, I guess, I think the term was a cold start, or it started immediately, there wasn't enough of a transition process which caught many people off guard. So I think going from that to a further process might be risky. So for those reasons, I think I will be foreshadowing the officer report should this alternative fail. I doubt it'll fail, but in the event. And I think we should just have a more robust sort of discussion around what the implications are for this, because this issue is going a certain way. We passed the policy, it's been expanded now. At what point do we discuss what that means for staffing, for resourcing, and further implications? So for those reasons, I won't be supporting this Councillor Lee's alternative.
Thank you, Councillor De Souza. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak in favour of Councillor Lees's alternative motion as amended by Councillor Russell's amendment? Nope. In that case, Councillor Lees, you have an opportunity to you have 5 minutes to rebut any arguments made during debate, if you would like to do so.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So ultimately, the report demonstrates, as I'm reading it, that the policy is delivering significant and measurable community benefits, that the costs and administrative burden have remained modest and proportionate, and the community is receiving substantial long-term benefits in return. Councillor De Souza talks about a full review, but the motion, the recommendation by the city doesn't actually propose a full review. Effectively, what I'm doing here is proposing a review that is based on the Walga tree retention local planning policy model and specifies particular issues that have come up over the last year. So it's specific to the to provide greater clarity. The State Administrative Tribunal has now passed 2 decisions that indicate that tree removal can be considered as development, and it is very clear that if we don't have a policy that determines or identifies the ways that the council is going to deal with this and and when tree removal is lawful or unlawful, then we will be letting the community down. So I think it's highly appropriate to have an LPP, and I think it's highly appropriate to improve upon it based on the experiences that we've been through, and also other councils that have adopted the policy. And in my view, the amendments and presenting a further draft policy would clarify the position and lead to further prosecutions, because it provides greater guidance and removes any questions about how the policy would be administered. So I think it's entirely appropriate that we move down this direction now, and I'd ask you to support the amendment, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. So, councillors, I'm about to put Councillor Lees's alternative motion as amended by Councillor Russell's amendment to the vote. If the vote succeeds, it succeeds. If the vote fails, then Councillor D'Souza has foreshadowed the officer recommendation, and then I would see if someone wanted to move and second the officer recommendation. But for now, we're going to do the vote on Councillor Lees's alternative motion as amended by Councillor Russell's amendment. All those in favour, please raise your hands. So that was myself, Mayor Milner, Councillor David, Councillor Denton, Councillor Russell, Councillor Lees and Councillor Brenda Abrandis. All those against, please raise your hands. That's Councillor D'Souza. So the alternative motion has been carried 6 votes to 1. We now move on to the next item to be withdrawn for discussion this evening, which is item 10.3.4, entitled Proposed Group Dwellings, Lot 296, number 22, Barker Avenue in Como. Councillor Russell, you have an alternative motion. Would you like to lead with the alternative motion?
Yes, I would. Thank
Yep,
you.
we'll get that up on the screen. You probably don't need to read that out since we've got available to us on the screen, unless you really, really want to.
No, that's quite all right.
All right, then I'll see if anyone's willing to second your alternative motion. Have we got a seconder, folks? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Councillor Russell, the floor is yours for your reasons.
Can we possibly largen that up? Okay, so reasons for change. 1, the application has not satisfactorily demonstrated for the purposes of clause 7.2C of the Local Planning Policy 3.2 tree retention that redesign of the development to accommodate retention of tree number 1 is unfeasible. The term unfeasible as used in the policy cannot be misconstrued with difficult, inconvenient or less efficient. The information provided primarily demonstrates that retention of the tree is incompatible with the specific 3-dwelling development outcome proposed, rather than demonstrating that reasonable development of the site cannot occur whilst retaining the tree. 2, the proposal is inconsistent with clause 4.2 and 4.3 of the Local Planning Policy 3.2 tree retention, which seeks to prioritise the retention and protection of regulated trees and facilitate tree preservation at the earlier stages of the planning and development process. The applicant has not demonstrated that all reasonable development options have been sufficiently explored prior to seeking approval for the tree damaging activity. 3, the removal of tree 1 would have an unacceptable impact on the amenity, landscape character and sense of place of the locality. Tree 1 is a substantial mature jarrah tree which makes a significant contribution to neighbourhood character, visual amenity and urban canopy. The officer assessment acknowledges that removal of the regulated trees will adversely impact neighbourhood amenity character and sense of place. 4, insufficient provision has been made for the preservation of tree 1. Whilst replacement planting is proposed, replacement trees are not considered as an equivalent substitute for the loss of a mature jarrah tree that currently provides substantial canopy, environmental and visual amenity benefits. 5, the development relies on a rear laneway access for units 2 and 3 whilst proposing built form, which constrains vehicle sightlines to the right of way. These matters further demonstrate that the proposed 3-dwelling layout is not necessarily the only reasonable development outcome available for the site, and reinforce position that redesign alternatives have not been sufficiently examined prior to seeking removal of tree 1. And 6, it is acknowledged that the site is capable of residential redevelopment and does not oppose development of the land. However, planning seeks to balance development outcomes by having regard to site characteristics, environmental values and planning objectives, rather than necessarily maximising dwelling yield. A significant regulated tree is a legitimate planning constraint similar to other recognised planning constraints such as heritage places, environmental assets, bushfire prone or flood affected lands, which may appropriately influence the scale and form of development. The proposal is not sufficient to demonstrate that tree retention of tree 1 renders reasonable development of the site to be unfeasible. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This alternative motion is very important. Firstly, we're considering a significant tree, a Eucalyptus marginata. With regard to the threatened black cockatoos, whitetails and redtails, the Eucalyptus marginata is a very important food source, amongst other trees such as the Columbia caryophylla and also the banksia trees, often of which residents do not plant. The importance of the diversity of these trees is significant because these are native trees to our region, and they do provide an alternative food source which is very important for those cockatoos. And through different times of the year when the actual flowering and seeding of these actual plants do seed. So it's an alternative food source to the pine plantation, which is a significant food source for one of the largest roosting groups of black cockatoos south of the river. Further consideration does need to be given with regard to developments and applications that do get put forward to council. The better option would be to actually try to actually ensure that we can actually retain not just significant trees, but of species which are so important for the other fauna in the area that rely upon these trees. The Eucalyptus marginata is a very important tree. It is actually very drought resistant to a large extent and is important with regard to retention. I support this alternative. I think it's appropriate and I think we do need to actually give a lot more consideration with regard to planning matters that come before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenda Abrandis. Councillors, is there anyone who wishes to speak against the alternative motion? Councillor D'Souza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think this matter is one of balance. I think Councillor Russell has raised some sound points, but I don't think they rise to the level of allowing council to effectively refuse this DA. So I'll turn council's attention to page 50 of the agenda under the heading Tree Retention, which is the city's response to the schedule of submissions, and halfway through that, it talks about the redesign, and the redesign, I guess, is the key aspect of this. Can this DA be potentially redesigned to retain trees? And if it can, great, that's the ideal outcome. But the city comment says that a redesign of the development to accommodate the regulated trees would result in a compromised and inefficient dwelling layout and conflict with the functional and design expectations of the R codes. So I guess the issue is, do we then, how do we convey this to potential applicants? Do we try to impose such potential winding or tortuous design purely to accommodate trees to the point where it doesn't meet the functional and design expectations of the R codes? I think the answer in this instance is no. And so for that reason, I won't be supporting Councillor Russell's motion.
Thank you,
and will be foreshadowing the officer report.
Thank you, Councillor D'Souza. Councillors, is there someone who would like to speak in favour? Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak in support of the alternative recommendation. For me, the key question is whether the applicant has demonstrated that retaining the Jarrah tree is genuinely unfeasible as required by our tree retention policy. Having reviewed the information before us, I'm not persuaded that this threshold has been met. The evidence appears to show that retaining the tree is incompatible with the applicant's preferred three-dwelling design, rather than demonstrating that reasonable development of the site cannot occur while retaining the tree. I note there is limited evidence that alternative design approaches, building layouts or engineering solutions have been fully explored before concluding that removal of the tree is necessary. To me, the tree retention policy is asking designers to do better, be innovative and find ways to accommodate significant trees wherever possible. And this doesn't need to cost more, it just needs a bit more thought. If retaining a tree simply requires a different design approach, that does not necessarily mean make it unfeasible. This is a healthy, mature Jarrah that makes an important contribution to the neighbourhood character, amenity and canopy. Once removed, those benefits cannot be readily replaced by new planting. Supporting this recommendation is not about opposing redevelopment. It is about applying the policy as intended and ensuring the case for removing a significant regulated tree has been properly demonstrated. For those reasons, I will be supporting the alternative recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillors, is there anyone who wishes to speak against the alternative motion? I'll say a few words. I suppose I'll begin by saying that I don't think there's as much certainty on this issue as might be desirable, and it does occur to me that the state government might provide greater clarity on these issues, because I don't think they're going away anytime soon, and particularly as more and more local governments adopt planning policies intended to protect trees on private property. I do acknowledge that there's a fair bit of judgment and maybe even some people might say subjectivity in interpreting local planning policy 3.2, but for me at least, I did prefer the view that's expressed in the officer recommendation. I'm not sure that the reasons identified, and they're expressed very well in the alternative motion, are necessarily sufficient to justify a refusal. So Councillor D'Souza has already foreshadowed the officer recommendation. I'll simply say that I won't be supporting this alternative motion. That's me. Is there anyone else who would like to speak who hasn't spoken either for or against the alternative motion at this point in time? Nope. In that case, Councillor Russell, the floor is yours for winding up. You have 5 minutes to rebut any arguments made during debate.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I will. First off, I agree with Councillor Lees, which is what I said in my reasons, is that there's been a failure to demonstrate unfeasibility of the proposal to retain this jarrah tree and only this jarrah tree. I mean, we haven't seen a concept. We've seen nothing. All we've seen is that is a three-dwelling layout. And the jarrah tree just happens to be in the way. That's not, to me, is demonstrating unfeasibility. In terms of balanced design, this is considering a balance. Not every property is going to have a tree, a regulated tree, and therefore that tree to be removed. So this is one of many few, I guess. This is one of few that will have a regulated tree that should be demonstrated to be able to be retained with reasonable development. That's all it is. So all we're doing is asking for the intent of the local planning policy to be accepted. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. So, councillors, I'm now putting Councillor Russell's alternative motion to the vote. If it carries, it carries. If it doesn't carry, then Councillor D'Souza has foreshadowed the officer recommendation. But for now, we're voting on Councillor Russell's alternative motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. So those are Councillor David, Councillor Denton, Councillor Russell, Councillor Lees and Councillor Brenda Abrandis. All those opposed, please raise your hands. And that's Councillor D'Souza and myself, Mayor Milner. So Councillor Russell's alternative motion has been carried 5 votes to 2. We move on to the next item to be withdrawn for discussion this evening, which is item 10.3.5, proposed group dwellings, lot 5, number 46, Thelma Street, Como. Councillor David, you have an alternative motion. Would you like to lead with that now? We'll get that up on the screen if you'd like to move that. Again, it's on the screen, so you don't need to read out the alternative motion itself unless you would really like to. No? Okay, I'll just see about a second then. Would someone like to second Councillor David's alternative motion? Councillor Lees, thank you. Councillor David, the floor is yours for your reasons.
Thank you, Chair. Mark Irwin, the president of the WA Local Government Association, was on ABC Radio this morning and said that local governments are often seen as that last barrier that stops things. Local governments don't want to be seen as that. We want to be seen as enablers who can work out what their local communities want. We provide the local context, and it's important. Local communities, everyone who's listening, think about where you live. You want to have a voice in what your local area looks like and the amenity you live in the future. Our local planning strategy has as one of its principles improve all aspects of livability within the city. The objective of this principle is to ensure new development is forward-thinking and achieves best practice environmental outcomes. State Planning Policy 2, Environment and Natural Resource Policy, outlines that future planning should consider how new development manages and reduces the impacts on the environment, considering matters such as climate change and the protection of significant vegetation. The policy states that planning decision-making should aim to protect, conserve and enhance biodiversity, which explicitly includes looking after native fauna and their habitats. It guides local governments to account for ecological linkages and minimise negative impacts on native animal habitats during land clearing, subdivision and development processes. The creation of Local Planning Policy 3.2 and the enormous community support for the preservation of trees indicates that the community supports measures to preserve mature trees. It means that going forward, it is no longer business as usual for development within the city. Here is a site with 34 trees, 2 of which are over 8 metres and which are located on the margins of the site. One of those trees is a liquid amber, the fruit and seeds of which are known to be utilised by endangered Carnaby's black cockatoos and vulnerable forest red-tailed black cockatoos. The community wants tree retention and it has to start somewhere. The proposed replacement of the existing canopy with 1 olive tree, 3 crepe myrtles and 1 ornamental pear is simply inadequate. None of these trees provide food or habitat for endangered or vulnerable bird species. They will take decades to replace the lost canopy, if at all. Given the climate is getting hotter and drier, any tree planted now will struggle to achieve the height and spread of the existing trees. The applicant has started from the position of seeking to maximise the potential built utility of the land and subsequently had an arborist report that the trees, as a result, can't stay. The arborist's report says as much, and I quote from it, "The report assesses the existing trees on the site in relation to the proposed group dwelling project. This backwards argument doesn't demonstrate that the redesign of the development to accommodate the regulated trees is unfeasible," the term used in Local Planning Policy 3.2 as a yardstick for considering tree preservation. Just because previous developments in the vicinity match the bulk and scale of the proposed development is insufficient, in my view, to justify this development. Times change and attitudes change and a community's needs change. We need to preserve as much canopy as we can, and it starts here. This is where the rubber hits the road. If we don't start pushing back against tree clearing, none of these strategies or policies matter a jot. If not here and now, then when will we start to push back? I commend the motion to you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Councillor Lees, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. So I am speaking in support, seconding Councillor David's recommendation. Similar to the previous item, the key issue for me is whether sufficient consideration has been given to retaining the significant trees on their site before arriving at a development outcome that requires their removal. In this case, 2 regulated trees are proposed to be removed, the liquid amber and the jacaranda. What stands out to me is that the liquid amber is located in the rear corner of the site, which would appear to provide a very favourable opportunity for retention. Having read the arborist report, the focus seems to be on how the existing tree interacts with the development as proposed. What I'm less clear on is whether any meaningful alternative layouts or design responses were explored before reaching the conclusion that removal was necessary. In my view, there is an important difference between demonstrating that the tree conflicts with a particular design and demonstrating that they cannot realistically be accommodated on the site. There is also a broader question here. if a significant tree located in a rear corner of a site is considered expendable to accommodate a preferred development outcome, then where does the policy have practical effect? If not here, when? Our tree retention policy was adopted because the community expects significant trees to be treated as a design consideration from the outset. To me, that means looking for ways to work around established canopy wherever possible, not starting from the assumption that removal is inevitable. These mature trees contribute to neighbourhood character, shade, biodiversity and urban cooling. Once these trees are removed, those benefits cannot be replaced for many years, regardless of what replanting placement is proposed. Supporting the recommendation is not about preventing development again. Like the previous item, is it about ensuring that significant trees are given proper weight in the design process and that their removal is only supported where a clear and compelling case has been made. For these reasons, I will be supporting the alternative recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak against the alternative motion? Councillor D'Souza.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, largely similar to my reasons against the previous item, I would just say a few more things. The first is under the conditions of approval, condition 8, part 3 suggests or imposes that the applicant plant more trees. So there's at least, and also the landscaping plan, so there is at least some, I guess, middle ground or progress to be made. The second point I'll make is that with the introduction of this new policy, we're going to see a lot more applications like this, and it will mean council has to sit in this position where we go through each DA and we have to ask ourselves the question, do we think it complies with the policy provision of the tree policy or not? But I would raise the broader policy imperative facing council and all councils, which is the fact that we have very clear infill targets imposed upon us by the state government. And if we interpret the policy the way we currently are, with every similar application coming before us, my concern is it might be a gradual issue at first, but strategically looking forward, it might only increase. We're going to potentially fall short of meeting our housing targets. And in the current context of housing undersupply, I think it's a question council needs to reflect and ask itself. How clearly or how firmly, how strictly do we apply the policy on DAs which are otherwise largely compliant? That's all I'll say, and I'll also flag foreshadow the officer report.
Thank you, Councillor D'Souza. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak in favour of the... Councillor Russell and Councillor Lees, I know you've got your light on there. Councillor Russell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So when we developed our LPS 7, we went through a strategy in order to meet the Perth Peel 3.5 million target. And what we came up with was a number of zoning areas. And this property is actually zoned R60. So if you look at what's been proposed, then you can say it's an underdevelopment. So it's not really up to council to meet those targets. We've done our job. It's not even up to the developer to meet those housing targets. So that to me is just not a reason for us to not or to refuse this motion. Again, for me, what comes down to it is the policy, and the policy has a word in it that says unfeasible. It is up to the applicant to prove that the development or the proposal is unfeasible, noting a balanced development. And a balanced development means a reasonable infill outcome. And it's up to the applicant to demonstrate that. And it's quite simply like the last one. The applicant has not done that. And that's all I need to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillors, is there anyone questioning Councillor Brenda Brandis?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Can the administration please advise if the applicant did provide any alternative developments that could actually consider or accommodate significant trees? And if so, what would the outcome have been with regard to the trees if they did provide us with alternative development applications?
Ms Mullen.
Thank you through the chair. So, as explained at the council agenda briefing, when an application is submitted to the city, officers assess the application as submitted. It's not for officers to suggest or to redesign a proposal for the applicant. They will enter into negotiations and discussions with the applicant, particularly in relation to the tree retention policy, to see whether the design can be amended. Have they considered the amendment? How could it actually be incorporated within the development to retain the tree? But in general, the city officers would not request an amended proposal to indicate the retention of the trees when it's not the intention of the applicant. So the applicant in this instance has applied for a group dwelling of 4 dwellings. Officers would not be asking for an alternative or a number of alternative scenarios that would indicate the retention of trees. They would be discussing with the applicant how the currently submitted proposal could possibly be amended to accommodate the existing trees on site, the existing regulated trees on site. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Brenda Brandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Ms Mullen. So just to clarify, the applicant did not provide any other alternatives.
Ms Mullen.
Thank you, the chair. No, discussions with the applicant centred around whether the currently submitted proposal could be amended to accommodate the tree, taking into account the NRZ and the SRZ. And in looking at those root zones, it was the officers accepted that the redesign would be unfeasible in relation to the development potential of the site. So no, they were not requested to submit an alternative that showed the retention of those trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillor Brenda Brandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Ms Mullen. A final question with regard to this item. Obviously, our local planning policy 3.2 is new, and it created a lot of enthusiasm within the community with regard to tree retention and protection of trees and private properties. So it is quite important. Is the administration having different conversations with regard to applications that are coming forward? Because I see obviously there's going to be increased conflict with regard to our local planning policy 3.2 and development applications, and is that changing the conversation that we would be having before some of these matters come to council?
Ms Mullen.
Thank you to the chair. Yes, absolutely. All applicants in pre-lodgement meetings are advised of the policy. They are advised to obtain an arborist report if there are any trees on site that are considered to be regulated trees. This information is interrogated by officers, certainly at the lodgement stage, to see whether the necessary information has been submitted. But yes, there's definitely a change in behaviour following the adoption of the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak in favour? Councillor Russell, question? Far away.
Yeah, since we have the Walga draft tree retention policy at hand, can you advise if the term unfeasible is in there, or the clause which contains unfeasible is in there?
Ms Mullen.
Through the chair, if I could have a moment. Through the chair, I apologise for taking a question on notice at council meeting, but I may have to do so in this instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak? Councillor Lees, a question? Far away.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Noting that we adopted the alternative motion to present an amended LPP to the council for consideration, and that it specifically refers to clarifying when redesign of the development to retain regulated trees may be considered unfeasible and the information required to justify this. Does the city think that might be of assistance in the future for this matter?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you to the Chair. It may be, and I apologise for the vagueness of my response, because officers would need to consider how that can actually be formulated within the wording of a policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Mullen. Councillors, Councillor Lees, another question?
Yeah, I just noted last week in one of the deputations there was reference to Cockburn Council's policy and reference to how they determine feasible and the information that's required to be provided by the applicant to justify that. Is that something that the city could be looking at through this review process?
Ms Mullen?
Thank you through the Chair. Yes, as part of the review, the City will be reviewing other local government policies. Thank you. Thank
you, Ms Mullen. Councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak against the alternative motion who hasn't already spoken? I will. Much of what I said in respect of the previous item probably applies here, but I did want to pick up on something that Councillor Sousa made reference to, which is how much weight should we be ascribing to the strict interpretation of local planning policy 3.2? Is it binary in the sense that any non-compliance with local planning policy 3.2 renders the development a refusal, or is it one factor amongst many that we have to have regard to? I don't claim to be a town planner, but I did find myself reading page 76 of the officer report, and I'll quote the section that perhaps informed where I'm landing on this one. So it's underneath the heading conclusion, starts from the second sentence of the first paragraph. Whilst the removal of 2 regular trees is proposed, their location and size within the Lot 3 and Lot 4 building envelope and vehicle access way presents a significant and impractical constraint to the development. A redesign of the development to accommodate the regulated trees would result in a compromised and inefficient dwelling layout and conflict with the functional and design expectations of the R codes. In the context of the subject site and development, the proposal achieves an appropriate development outcome through the provision of a tree for each lot and the retention of street verge trees. This approach balances tree retention with the development of a functional proposal consistent with the R60 coding. The redesign of the development to accommodate the retention of the regulated trees on site is not considered feasible. Accordingly, the application is recommended for approval subject to appropriate conditions. I do think that the R60 coding is relevant here. Again, yes, it does seem to be a balancing act. Yes, there's no question that this development application doesn't comply with local planning policy 3.2, but I'm not convinced that that non-compliance necessarily justifies a refusal in this instance. But that's me. Is there anyone else who would like to speak who hasn't spoken either for or against so far? Councillor Brenda Abrandis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am supportive of this alternative motion. Primarily, the applicant has not demonstrated that they could actually try retaining some of these trees. Some of these trees are significant, and in particular, when you consider a liquid amber tree in a location which would actually encourage better development and tree retention at the same time, I'm not sure due consideration is being given to the best planning outcome here. The site has 34 trees, and the proposed trees to replace the existing trees, in my view, aren't appropriate with regard to what we should be trying to achieve for habitat and also food source as well. Liquid amber has been pointed out as a food source for the black cockatoos. So for these reasons, I think greater care should be given with regard to applicants to actually try to present better plans for development and ensure that we can actually try to retain some of the significant trees on properties and not just accept that a blank page is the way to move forward with regard to every development application that is presented to Council. For these reasons this evening, I am supporting this alternative motion, and I think better planning with regard to the applicants needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenda Abrandis. Councillors, is there anyone who hasn't already spoken either for or against who would like to speak? No. In that case, Councillor David? Sorry, yes. Sorry, I was having to refer to my notes. You now have 5 minutes to rebut any arguments made against your alternative motion during debate now, if you would like to do so.
Thank you, Chair. We are all in a brave new world at the moment in relation to these local planning policies to retain trees. And as I outlined at the when presenting this motion to you, behaviour has to change in order to give effect to these policies, and that means that at some point we simply have to make a stand. I know that some of you think that we are making a rod for our own back by refusing this application, and we'll have to refuse others that come forward, but hopefully by refusing applications such as this, those seeking to develop will be mindful first of the trees rather than mindful first of how many lots they can get on the block. I acknowledge that we have infill targets and that we do wish to maximise the number of homes that we have in the area, but as far as I'm concerned, the more homes we have, the more people we have, and the more those people will be looking to look out their windows on green spaces. We just can't have wall-to-wall housing simply to meet infill targets. The purpose of our local planning policy 3.2 wasn't to create merely another hoop for developers or applicants to jump through and for matters to be brought before us and for us to tick the box and let them go on with it. The purpose of the policy is to drive change and to preserve trees, and hopefully by making a stand, such as by refusing this application in the current circumstances, will demonstrate that we want better from applicants in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. So, councillors, I'm about to put Councillor David's alternative motion to the vote. If it carries, it carries. If it doesn't carry, then Councillor D'Souza has foreshadowed the officer recommendation. With that in mind, councillors, all those in favour of the alternative motion, please raise your hands. So that was Councillor David, Councillor Denton, Councillor Russell, Councillor Lees and Councillor Brenda Abrandis. All those opposed, please raise your hands. And that's Councillor D'Souza and myself. The alternative motion has been carried 5 votes for 2. And that means we move on to the next item withdrawn for discussion, which is item 10.4.1, City of South Perth Communication Agreement. Councillor Lees, I understand that you've got an amendment to this one. If you're happy to lead with that, as though it's the substantive motion that we'll be debating. We've got it up on the screen, but maybe because it's short, if you'd like to read out the section in red, which is how your amendment differs from the officer recommendation, and then I'll see about a seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have an additional part 2 to the recommendation, which is requests the Chief Executive Officer to establish and maintain a councillor request register recording formal elected member requests for information and the responses provided by the administration and that the register be made available to all elected members.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillor Brenda Abrandis is seconder. Councillor Lees, the floor is yours for your reasons.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm moving this amendment because I support the communications agreement and the intent behind it. Having said that, as I mentioned last week, I do think the document is quite legalistic and not particularly user-friendly. Nonetheless, I know it's the one that we have to deal with. It largely reflects the template and guidance by the state. So I support the agreement and the principles it seeks to reinforce. My amendment is straightforward and relatively minor. It simply seeks to complement the agreement by requesting the CEO establish and maintain a councillor request register, recording formal requests for information and the responses provided by administration with the register available to all elected members. This is not a new concept. The City has maintained a similar register in the past, and I believe there are clear benefits in re-establishing one. It would provide improve transparency, provide equitable access to information, reduce duplication of requests, and allow councillors to more easily track the status of matters they have raised. Importantly, establishing the register through a council resolution, as I've proposed, gives it an ongoing basis and provides certainty that it will continue to be maintained for the benefit of current and future elected members. This amendment does not change the communications agreement itself. It's a practical governance improvement that supports better communication and helps ensure elected members are working from the same information base. So for those reasons, I would encourage you all to support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I support this amendment primarily because it reinstates something that we previously had and it worked very well. This does provide transparency, tracking of our requests, an audit trail, and also reduces some of the duplication that might occur between different councillors. I fully support this and look forward to having this established again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brenda Abrandis. Councillors, does anyone oppose the amendment? No? In that case, I'll use my powers under the standing orders to declare it carried unanimously. Thank you all. We now move on to item 10.4.5, which is Chief Executive Officer Evaluation Committee. So we've got two new members of council, folks. We currently have on the Chief Executive Officer Evaluation Committee, we currently have myself, Councillor Lees, Councillor D'Souza, Councillor Brenda Abrandis and Councillor Russell. That said, we can have another two if our new elected members would like to join the CEO Evaluation Committee. I'll call for nominations from the floor if anyone would like to join. Councillor Denton? No, that's fine. Well, in that case, I'll move a motion to the, in line with the officer recommendation, that Council, in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act 1995, sections 5.10 and 5.11, appoints the following elected member, singular, to the Chief Executive Officer Evaluation Committee for the period 25 August 2026 to 16 October 2027, and then have Councillor Gavin Denton's name underneath there. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Brenda Abrandis, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? Then that is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 11, which is applications for a leave of absence. Councillors, does anyone have a leave of absence application that they'd like to make? Councillor Lees?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to make an application for leave from Wednesday 21st to Wednesday 28th of October inclusive. Thank you.
So that's the 21st through to the 28th of October inclusive. Excellent. Councillor Lee, back up a couple of steps. Anyone else other than Councillor Lees? Councillor Brenda Abrandis?
Yes, Mr Mayor, could I please apply for a period of leave from the 23rd of September to the 21st of October inclusive?
So that's the 23rd of September through to the 21st of October inclusive? Yep. Councillors, any other applications for a leave of absence? No. In that case, I'll move a motion along the following lines, that the leave of absence applications received from Councillor Kathy Lees for the period of 21 October 2026 to 28 October 2026, and from Councillor Andre Brendera-Brandis for the period of 23 September 2026 to 21 October 2026, inclusive, be granted. Did I get both of the leave periods right? Okay, good, fantastic. Could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor David, I think, was first there. Councillors, does anyone oppose? Nope, then I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to item 12, which is motions of which previous notice has been given. That's nil for this evening. Item 13 is questions from members. Item 13.1 is responses to previous questions from members taken on notice. That's nil. Item 13.2 is questions from members. Councillors, any questions for the administration? Yes, Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I understand this might need to be taken on notice, but can the administration advise who within the organisation is authorised to approve the removal of trees on city-managed land, whether due to tree health, public safety concerns, infrastructure works or other operational reasons?
Ms Ampremo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. We'll take that one on notice.
Thank you. Councillor Lees, another question?
The second part to the question was, further, can administration confirm whether all removals of trees from city-managed land are reported to council through the weekly councillor bulletin?
Ms Ampremo.
We do report through the council bulletin, but I will take on notice and double check that all of them are.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Russell.
Thank you. Is there a reason as to why floodway and flood fringes are mapped on the city's intramap but not the floodplains?
Who should I send that to, folks? Ms Ampremo?
We'll take it on notice.
All right. Any further questions for administration, councillors? No. Okay. That brings us to item 14, which is new business of an urgent nature, introduced by decision of the meeting. That's nil for this evening. And that brings us to item 15, which is where we do have to close the meeting to the public. So those of you who have been in the gallery and those of you who have been listening via YouTube, thank you for joining us this evening. We will have to close the meeting to the public at this stage, which means physically closing the chamber and going offline. We will be resurfacing once we've dealt with item 15, but item 16 is closure, so you're not...
behind closed doors is to reference the applicable provision of legislation. We've got 5234G in the run sheet. Can we please add regulation 4B of the local government admin regulations?
4B, did you say?
4B.
So, okay, so not 4G, 4B?
No.
Oh.
In addition to.
In addition to, so 4B and 4G. Right, great. So, moving a motion that the following agenda items be considered in closed session in accordance with section 5.23, subsection 4, subsection B and subsection G. Is that correct?
Section 5.234G of the Local Government Act and Regulation 4B of the Local Government Admin Regulations.
And Regulation 4B of the Local Government Regulations. My apologies. So those items are 15.1.1, Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 1, 15.1.2, Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 2, item 15.1.3, Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 3, item 15.1.4, Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 4, item 15.1.5, Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 5, and item 15.1.6, Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 6. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Brendera-Brandis, thank you. Councillors, does anyone oppose? Nope. In that case, that's carried unanimously, and we'll just close. Okay, so we're now back online and back in open session. So, Council, I confirm that the following council decisions were made in respect of items 15.1.1 through to 15.1.6 inclusive. So, for item 15.1.1, Council's resolution was that Council 1 notes and rejects the recommendation contained within confidential attachment A. Paragraph 2, that Council finds that the conduct that is the subject of the complaint constitutes a breach of the following provisions of the Code of Conduct, sub paragraph 1, Division 2, General Principles, 5, Relationship with Other, and sub paragraph 2, Division 3, Behaviour, 9, Relationship with Others. Paragraph 3 was request the Chief Executive Officer refers the Code of Conduct Matter 1 to the Local Government Inspector, and the reason for change was on the basis of the evidence before us. I disagree with the investigator's decision, and for reasons of procedural fairness, I believe this matter should be reviewed. Item 15.1.2, Council's resolution was as follows, that Council, paragraph 1, notes and rejects the recommendation contained within confidential attachment A. Paragraph 2, that Council finds that the conduct that is the subject of the complaint constitutes a breach of the following provisions of the Code of Conduct, subparagraph 1, Division 2, General Principles, 5, Relationship with Other, and subparagraph 2, Division 3, Behaviour, 9, Relationship with Others, and paragraph 3 was request the Chief Executive Officer refers the Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 2 to the Local Government Inspector, and the reason for change was on the basis of the evidence before us. I disagree with the investigator's decision, and for the reasons of procedural fairness, I believe this matter should be reviewed. For item 15.1.3, Council's resolution was as follows, that Council, paragraph 1, notes and rejects the recommendation contained within confidential attachment A. Paragraph 2, that Council finds that the conduct that is the subject of the complaint constitutes a breach of the following provisions of the Code of Conduct, subparagraph 1, Division 2, General Principles, 4, Personal Integrity, subparagraph 2, Division 2, General Principles, 5, Relationship with Other, subparagraph 3, Division 3, Behaviour, 9, Relationship with Others. And paragraph 3 was request the Chief Executive Officer refers the Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 3 to the Local Government Inspector. The reason for change was on the basis of the evidence before us. I disagree with the investigator's decision, and for reasons of procedural fairness, I believe this matter should be reviewed. For item 15.1.4, Council's resolution was that Council, paragraph 1, notes and rejects the recommendation contained within confidential attachment A. Paragraph 2, that Council finds that the conduct that is the subject of the complaint constitutes a breach of the following provisions of the Code of Conduct, subparagraph 1, Division 2, General Principles, Relationship with Other, subparagraph 2, Division 3, Behaviour, 9, Relationship with Others, and paragraph 3 read, request the Chief Executive Officer refers the Code of Conduct Matter 4 to the Local Government Inspector. And the reason for change was, on the basis of the evidence before us, I disagree with the investigator's decision, and for reasons of procedural fairness, I believe this matter should be reviewed. On item 15.1.5, Council's resolution was as follows, that Council, paragraph 1, notes and rejects the recommendation contained within confidential attachment A. Paragraph 2, that Council finds that the conduct that is the subject of the complaint constitutes a breach of the following provisions of the Code of Conduct, subparagraph 1, Division 2, General Principles, 4, Personal Integrity, subparagraph 2, Division 2, General Principles, 5, Relationship with Other, subparagraph 3, Division 3, Behaviour, 9, Relationship with Others, and paragraph 3 read, request the Chief Executive Officer refers the Councillor Code of Conduct Matter 5 to the Local Government Inspector. The reason for change was, on the basis of the evidence before us, I disagree with the investigator's decision, and for reasons of procedural fairness, I believe this matter should be reviewed. And for item 15.1.6, Council's resolution was as follows: that Council, paragraph 1, notes and rejects the recommendation contained within confidential attachment A. Paragraph 2, that Council finds that the conduct that is the subject of the complaint constitutes a breach of the following provisions of the Code of Conduct. Subparagraph 1, Division 2, General Principles 4, Personal Integrity. Subparagraph 2, Division 2, General Principles 5, Relationship with Other. Subparagraph 3, Division 3, Behaviour 9, Relationship with Others. And paragraph 3 read, request the Chief Executive Officer refers the Councillor Code of Conduct, Matter 6, to the Local Government Inspector. And the reason for change was, on the basis of the evidence before us, I disagree with the investigator's decision, and for reasons of procedural fairness, I believe this matter should be reviewed. Okay, that brings us to item 16, which is closure. But before I close tonight's meeting, I would like to thank everyone for their attendance and participation this evening. I declare the meeting closed at 9:18 p.m. Thank you all, and good night.